long ago as this truck there being trailed by Bell Gardens PD made a left. We're going to find out exactly where this is in the Bell Gardens area. We can tell you that we don't at this point know the want, as a close call there, making a right turn, going through traffic at high rates of speed, considering that this is on surface streets. This is on Garfield, I'm being told, in the Bell Gardens area. We're waiting to find out from police the want, why this person is fleeing from police. As we approach the 5 o'clock hour, it's 4:38 here, and it's a white pickup truck. Looks like a work vehicle, as I've said, being pursued. You can see going through traffic. Ooh, close call there, on the wrong side of the road. And obviously very carelessly driving here. Dennis Zine, he is joining us now on the line here, police specialist. Dennis, you were LAPD. You know all about this stuff. What do you make of this?
Well, just another pursuit in the city of LA, unusual vehicle. As we see this vehicle traveling on the roads, looks like a residential area as we're just tuning in to this. I'm just getting preliminary reports on this particular pursuit. We've had a number of them lately, high-speed pursuits, and we see the sheriff's department's overhead. Very dangerous driving through a stop sign, nearly collided with a car traveling without the stop. So there's a lot of potential danger in this particular pursuit that's taken place. I believe it's in the county territory, if I'm not mistaken.
And now, Dennis, we understand they're in Montebello just like that.
Well, Montebello, I don't believe, has a chopper. They're using the LA County Sheriff's Department chopper. This vehicle is driving in a very, very dangerous fashion, as we see traversing these streets, wrong side of roadway, making bizarre turns. We have one vehicle behind, the black and white. I don't know how many other vehicles are in this pursuit. Do we know what the vehicle is wanted for, the suspect's wanted for?
No, in fact, we know that Bell Gardens PD is the lead agency here now in Montebello. But as for the wants, we have yet to figure that one out.
Well, it could be anything. It could be right through another stop sign, high rate of speed. That's when they broadside someone and someone is seriously injured. But very, very hazardous driving in this particular area, especially in the residential area. We've got children coming out of school, people playing in the streets, extremely hazardous, extremely dangerous as traveling down these roads in a heavily populated area, residential area, with obviously pedestrians, parked cars, driveways, etc. Very, very serious. The police vehicle is right behind. I don't see another vehicle. Normally there's at least one backup. They do have the sheriff's department overhead along with Skyfox 11, and we'll see where this ends up. Hopefully the authorities will release what this individual is wanted for, but clearly a high speed trying to elude. Maybe it's a stolen vehicle, robbery. It could be anything.
Sure.
I don't want to speculate.
We have it clocked.
Definitely hot the truck.
We have it clocked at about 75 miles per hour on, as you mentioned, a residential street, surface street here, just zooming by unsuspecting drivers here at 4:40 in the afternoon. And what do you make of the vehicle itself? We're calling it a work vehicle, a truck here. The size of it, that also adds to the dangerousness of this pursuit.
Well, it could be that he stole the vehicle. That's a very possible situation where the vehicle is stolen from some type of a contractor, some kind of a worker doing some kind of construction, electrical work. That type of vehicle that he's stolen, we assume it's a stolen vehicle, or the individual is wanted for some other activity that we don't know about. Until the authorities give the information and broadcast what the vehicle is wanted for, you can speculate anything. Obviously, he's committing felonies by the way he's driving, but what they want for originally, I do not know. Again, a wrong side of road, going to come up on an intersection, going through that intersection, car stop. This individual, wrong side of road again. This individual is really, really hot to get away.
Oh,
that is a construction type of vehicle, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was a collision before there's an apprehension. There was a pedestrian in that crosswalk crossing the street. This is very, very dangerous.
Sure, and Dennis, of course, I've mentioned the time so far. It's now 4:42. Of course, approaching the evening commute. There's a lot more people out at this hour of the day. This guy driving recklessly, 75 miles per hour on surface streets. This big vehicle, this white pickup truck here. The busy traffic time, that's one of the elements. How do Bell Gardens PD, how do you stop someone like this in terms of, is it a pit maneuver, a spike strip?
Well, you're not going to be able to do a pit maneuver on those narrow residential streets. That will not work. You've got to have a speed that law enforcement adheres to in the 30, 35 mile an hour speed range. They could do a spike strip, but then you've got to pre-deploy. Again, all I see is one vehicle behind the suspect. Now the police vehicle just hit a car. Police vehicle just hit on a car, and now the police vehicle is still in pursuit. Now the man is going into, it looks like a parking lot.
Sure.
Out of a parking lot.
And we should explain to viewers that our feed is just a few seconds ahead of yours. So yes,
right.
the vehicle did go through, it looked like some sort of a parking lot. Fortunately, still no accidents to speak of, which is just really a miracle given the speed and the recklessness with this driver.
It looked like there was one situation where a police vehicle hit on the vehicle that was stopped. It appeared to be that way just a couple seconds ago. Wow. But at the speed he's going through these stop signs at a very, very high speed. Someone goes through that intersection without a stop, they're going to get broadsided by this person. That's how people get seriously injured and killed on a broadside collision. But this man is really, or individual, I should say, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but the suspect is very, very intent on getting away. But that vehicle is easy to recognize, easy to spot. Again, he's remaining, or she's the suspect. Yeah,
Dennis,
remaining in the residential area.
Crossed over the median there, now in the wrong side of traffic. Very scary. This is Christine Devine joining you and Marla here as you watch this pursuit. We are in the East LA area, and we understand this driver has been going in a similar area, which makes you think the person might know this area. The streets they've been on: Beverly, Sadler, Whittier, Williamson, 6th, and Gerhardt and Olympic Boulevard in East LA. Again, according to our people, kind of going in circles. Thoughts on that, Dennis?
Yes. But again, through the residential communities at a high rate of speed, extremely dangerous. It's easy to recognize that truck. It's easy to recognize the individual, the suspect inside is obviously wanted for something. It could be a stolen vehicle. We can speculate, but clearly trying to elude the officers. And again, I only see one vehicle behind along with the sheriff's chopper overhead. So hopefully there'll be additional units to assist in this pursuit. But that vehicle, the police vehicle, is right behind. They're not backing off on this individual. It could be wanted for any variety of felony crimes. But whatever he's doing now, he or she, the suspect, is committing many felonies by this driving pattern.
And we do have the license plate number, which means obviously Bell Gardens PD does as well. So they're running those plates to find out more. Right.
They'll run the plate, see the registered owner. If necessary, contact the registered owner. If it's a stolen vehicle, that'll obviously be part of why this individual is fleeing. We do get commercial vehicles that are stolen. It's not uncommon. And if this is a construction vehicle and someone stole it, or the individual.
That move. Look at that move there.
Dennis, as you're going to see, he just looked like scraped a couple of vehicles that were stopped in this 4-lane road here, right alongside a golf course there in East LA, the Montebello Golf Course.
Yep. Yeah, he's really, really trying to get away, and he comes up upon traffic, especially at this hour. You're going to find a lot of traffic. You know, we're 4:46 going on 5 o'clock, people out of work, a lot of people on the roads, students, bicycle riders, motorcycle riders, etc. Highly congested area. This is not a late night pursuit where you don't have a lot of traffic. You see, there's a lot of traffic out, and those are all potential victims of this driver plowing into them and causing them very, very serious injury.
Dennis, you're talking about the open roads versus the very congested roads during this rush hour traffic, yet this driver here has found an open stretch here to just bring those speeds up yet again, driving so dangerously and crossing right now over yellow lines. He paralleled the freeway there for a minute, and you can see that he stayed on, I say see because we don't know if it's a he or a she, but he stayed on these surface streets, like we said, kind of going in the same area of East LA, Monterey Park, Garfield now. Yeah.
And that's a populated area, especially during the time people getting out of work. So there's a lot of potential people to be injured by this individual who's fleeing at an excessive rate of speed on the residential areas and the commercial areas in this particular community. Again, I only see one vehicle behind, one black and white, and there's got to be more joining in, especially with this speed and the hazardous driving of this individual who's fleeing from the authorities for whatever crime. The units know what he's wanted for, at least what they initially put the pursuit out, in pursuit of a suspect for this particular, that particular. It wouldn't surprise me, if anything, whether it be GTA stole the vehicle or some other crime that occurred along the way. But you can tell by this driving pattern, this person is very, very intent on getting away. But with that chopper overhead, there's nowhere this vehicle is going to disappear. And again, hopefully the ground agents will be able to apprehend that closely.
And it looks like somebody just flew out of the back of the vehicle, perhaps. I'm thinking about the safety of the public, of course, all of these drivers, you know, making their way on this Thursday afternoon, whether on their way home, to work, running errands, all innocent people out there. So if you're PD, when do you make the decision to back off? For instance, we just had a wild pursuit end in a terrible crash yesterday in Lake Balboa involving as many as 3 vehicles. So we certainly don't want to have another ending like that.
No, the officers have to obviously concern themselves with the protection of the public. You obviously want to apprehend the perpetrator, the suspect. And here we have at least two black and whites in pursuit. There'll be a supervisor who will give direction and follow instead of activating the red lights and the siren. Again, as long as we have an air unit overhead, we can follow at a safe distance. Hopefully that individual will slow down, but oftentimes they don't. But if they do slow down, that gives the public an air of safety, and that area of safety is what we're looking for. At the same time, apprehend this person desperately trying to flee and driving in a careless, reckless manner. But the officers will make that call, and the supervisor will be observing, and obviously, oftentimes the supervisor will intercede, because the officers that are in pursuit are intent on apprehending this individual. High-speed pursuit, their adrenaline is pumping. A supervisor looks at this and says, too hazardous, too many problems, let's back off. Let's continue observing. Let's continue with the air operation, follow the safe distance, and they will pursue, but at a safer distance without the siren and red light.
Precarious turn there, Dennis. He had just passed the 10 freeway a few minutes ago, going at some speeds up to 90 miles an hour. Look at these turns. It's amazing he's able to keep control of that vehicle and hasn't crashed into another vehicle as you watch this pursuit. Now more on surfacey streets. Did pass the freeway, the 10 freeway. Could have gotten on the freeway, perhaps chose to stay on surface streets. Does it lead you to believe, Dennis, the suspect knows this area, Monterey Park, East L.A.?
Well, in addition to maybe knowing the area, there's a concern. You get on the freeway, and the freeway, obviously, at this particular hour, coming up on 5 o'clock, a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion. You can't go anywhere. So on a freeway, it would be preferable, if you're in pursuit of trying to get away from the authorities, to stay in an area where you can continue moving. In this particular area, we see this individual, the suspects, finding open roads where you don't have a lot of congestion. But again, the freeway at this hour is pretty congested, both going north, south, east, and west. So they're probably wise to stay.
Whoa.
We've seen so many near misses, and that was just another one right through a major intersection there, now in the Alhambra area. As we get a closer look at the suspect, you can see has the window down just a little bit there, and just again blowing through intersection after intersection with countless near misses.
Well, it looks like he may have tapped that last car as he went through the intersection. He may have tapped the left rear as that vehicle was trying to get out of his way. Again, the black and white behind, I don't know if the lights are activated, but the black and white is definitely trying to stay up with them. And fortunately, we do have a chopper overhead. I saw the sheriff's chopper. They will be broadcasting to the ground.
Dennis, we just watched for the first time this motorist come across some pedestrians in crosswalks there. Very scary to see that. The streets that we're looking at here in the Alhambra area have been Garfield, Mission, State, Main Street. So if you know this area, this is where the suspect is at this point in time. That was very scary because there were 2 crosswalks where you had different pedestrians, and luckily nobody got hurt there. I mean, he flew through so fast that they didn't even have a chance to, run or get out of the way if they needed to.
Well, that's the concern about pedestrians, cars. When you have heavy traffic like this, there's that hazard that occurs. He goes from residential to commercial. Now it looks like maybe back going into a residential area. He keeps on transferring back and forth where you've got hazards in both areas. But he's driving aimlessly, just trying to find a spot, maybe to bail. It's not unusual, as we know, they bail from the vehicle. This is a hard vehicle to hide, hard vehicle to conceal. And those units that were behind, I see them fall. They look like they're slipping back.
Well, right now, we're following him along northbound Atlantic in Alhambra as we can now see a clear shot of the sheriff's helicopter flying above.
And that's what's going to keep the eye. The sheriff's units will keep an eye on that vehicle, continue with that pursuit. If the ground units do back off, there we go. LA County Sheriff's Department choppers overhead. They work in coordination with smaller cities that don't have air operations. I don't know if that city does have an air operation in Alhambra, but nevertheless, the sheriffs will assist along with other agencies. Again, we're going to find crazy driving, turns against red lights. Is very, very hazardous. This person is wanted for something probably more than stolen vehicle, and that's why they're trying to flee. But with that chopper overhead, they're not going to get too far.
And the rate of speed that they've been going at, 70 miles per hour at times, clearly trying to avoid authorities, but in that fairly large vehicle. But I am surprised at this hour, coming up at 5 o'clock, that you have these open stretches. But look at what the driver does to get around somebody who gets in his way. That, of course, is the very scary part indeed.
This is desperate. This is desperate moves by this individual.
Yeah.
These are desperate moves, maneuvers to try and elude the police. Maybe he knows, maybe he doesn't know, or she's a suspect, whether there's a chopper overhead. But with a chopper overhead, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to continue fleeing and imperiling a lot of people, a lot of hazard to the general public and motoring public. And as we see, wrong side of the double yellow lines, he's doing, or she, I keep on referring to he or she because we know most of the time it's a he, but this suspect is driving in a totally careless, reckless manner. And this will compound the charges against the individual once they're apprehended.
And now this is the area, San Marino, now South Pasadena, in fact.
And these are very quiet residential communities, well-maintained, quiet residential communities. Not a lot of crime, not a lot of violence. This is obviously unusual for these neighborhoods as we see these quiet residential streets. But this individual, whether they know the area or not, they are desperate to flee, desperate to evade. Again, we do have a chopper overhead along with the media choppers, and they do communicate and they work with law enforcement. So you've got more than the helicopter eyes overhead.
Oh, it looks like he's onto a freeway?
It looks like the 110 here,
110, right?
110 South and South Pasadena. So this is the first time that we've seen since we've started covering this pursuit in the last 15 minutes, although it's been underway for at least 30 minutes so far. Now the driver is cruising along on the southbound 110.
Well, there will be congestion. Going to come into a lot of congestion here.
Because this car is going to now head towards the downtown area, and I can imagine downtown about 5 p.m. here. We should also note, our viewers, this is an early edition of Fox 11 5 p.m. news. And as we head towards 5 o'clock here, this driver now on the freeway, it'll be interesting to see as we get a wider shot here, or he actually gets onto the freeway, what kind of congestion and where he'll start to see a backup. Thoughts on that, Dennis?
Well, what we will find is a lot of congestion on that freeway at this particular hour. That is not unusual at this time to have that situation take place. So it's not unusual. I've driven that freeway as you have for many years. They'll be coming into a lot of blockage as we get closer to the downtown area.
Well, so far has not hit that congestion
right now.
just yet, which is a rarity, as all of us know. But as I say that, it looks like slowing down a little bit. Oh, maybe getting off just like that. Back onto surface streets, yes.
Well, maybe you saw congestion ahead, and congestion ahead means let's take a detour and let's get back to. Now he'll be getting, or she, into the Los Angeles City area. Now you'll find LAPD will jump in. Is this violator, this traffic violator suspect get through another stop sign onto additional residential streets. LAPD should be joining this along with the LAPD chopper. That will take place shortly.
So this all started in Bell Gardens. The lead agency is Bell Gardens at this point. You mentioned blowing through another intersection near misses left and right here in the middle lane. You mentioned that LAPD might now join in this pursuit of this white pickup truck, some sort of a work vehicle, the Want. We still are working to find out.
Normally, when they enter a jurisdiction that has the resources, that jurisdiction will then take over the pursuits on the freeway. CHP takes over. This is now in the city of LA, so it's not uncommon for LAPD air units to operate along with ground units from the division, in addition to the traffic division. But they want to limit the number of units in pursuit. They want to maintain control, and ultimately the safety of the motoring and pedestrian of the community, that's paramount. They don't want anyone getting injured. In addition to the suspect, now we see a black and white in the opposite direction. I don't know what agency that's from. It was too quick of a shot. But as we see this pursuit's continuing and not stopping at stop signs, very dangerous, very hazardous, and just going any which way that the suspect feels is appropriate, trying to evade traffic, evade the police and avoid traffic, evade the police and avoid traffic. That's exactly what this person's trying to do at this particular time.
Dennis, we should note the new area that he has been driving in is Highland Park on Figueroa and Piedmont, going at speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. You mentioned the different jurisdictions perhaps taking over. He's been in Monterey Park, LAPD jurisdiction, and a sheriff's helicopter flying overhead. He really is making some moves in some different communities. You know, we think of CHP handling the ones on the freeway, but on the surface streets, when you go into different communities, who stays with that pursuit and who joins in when?
Well, you've got the primary unit that initiated the pursuit, and they obviously have the information of what originally occurred, what prompted the pursuit in the first place. So they will remain. But as far as the other units with the other cities, they will normally back off in the jurisdiction, Los Angeles or LA County Sheriffs, which they have a lot of resources. They will take over the pursuit because it's in their jurisdiction now. They're responsible for what occurs. An incident occurs, a collision occurs, whatever. That agency, in this particular case, LAPD, will handle that. So LAPD, it's not uncommon for them to take over the pursuit. Again, they have a lot more resources than the other agencies. But that other agency is the initial pursuing agency. They have all the information. What started this? Why did this occur? And now it's apprehend the individual. So they will assist in resources to apprehend. And this is the situation, basically, run out of gas, crash, surrender, bail from the vehicle. There's a few options that the individual fleeing can take, and the law enforcement will utilize whatever procedure is reasonable and prudent to apprehend that individual. That's the bottom line. Apprehend the suspect, make a safe conclusion, take the vehicle into custody, impound the vehicle, and work with the original agency to find out exactly what this person did. Because LAPD now sees this vehicle fleeing. They have no idea, other than the communications that have been broadcast about the pursuit. But now it's not uncommon for LAPD to take over.
Whoa.
I don't know where the units are, but they should do that shortly.
Oh, my gosh.
Just blew through the train crossing, the
As
actual
the train's
gates.
approaching.
Right.
Dennis, did you see that move
Right
there?
through the gate. Right through the gates, yeah.
And
Yeah,
if you
and
think,
here comes the train.
yeah, if you think moments, if there just the timing that he went through those gates, those train guard, if he'd waited that train was coming right up on him. Wow, wow, that was just a wow.
Well,
That person's very, very lucky it didn't get hit by that train, because that was just a few seconds. That person went, goes to the gate, obviously, and this was just a couple seconds that train approached.
well,
That person is very lucky to have avoided that collision with the train.
now that it's just a minute past 5 o'clock on this Thursday evening, we do want to officially welcome you to the Fox 11 5 o'clock news. I'm Marla Tejas alongside Christine Devine. I'm here in for Alex Michelson, who's on special assignment this evening. We have Dennis Zine, police specialist, on the line helping us out with this police pursuit that's been underway for at least 30 minutes so far. The lead agency here is Bell Gardens, and as you can see from this chopper shot from Skyfox, it is a white pickup truck, some sort of a work vehicle that is being pursued.
Dennis, let me ask you this question. With a move like we saw with the train there, might that encourage law enforcement to go into tracking mode? Because the dangerous concept of this pursuit just kind of changed the game right there when you saw that move.
Well, that'll be a call by a supervisor if they decide to do that. Again, if the station, the watch commander is watching this on the monitor, they do monitor local news broadcasts, so I'm sure if the divisional stations are watching this, monitoring this, communicating with the supervisor that's going to be in the field. In this particular utility vehicle, the driving is extremely hazardous. They may go into a tracking mode, and if they do, then we still have the air unit operation overhead. One of the issues with the tracking mode is there's no warning to the motorist as this utility vehicle, is approaching in a careless, reckless manner. At least when you have the siren and red lights, people are aware something's happening. But if it's just the vehicle driving in a very, very high-speed, careless manner, people have no idea what's going on. So
Yeah.
here we see him on the wrong side of the roadway. The public is not aware. They look like a traffic violator when in fact it's a fleeing felon. So there is some advantage, but the responsibility is for the safety of the public. So oftentimes they will go into a tracking mode. As long as you've got an air unit overhead, tracking mode is successful and very, very safe for the public. But when you've got those vehicles going code 3, multiple police vehicles going code 3, the dual purpose of informing the public as well as trying to apprehend the individual. It looks like he's slowing down a bit. Again, in another residential area, suspect appears to be slowing down from the high speeds that the suspect was driving in previously. So maybe the tracking mode is helpful. If we are in a tracking mode at this time, I don't see a unit close behind.
Yeah, we just saw one there with the lights on.
There we go. Okay, there we go. But we do have that's not LAPD. That unit is not LAPD. That's one of the other communities. I looked at the blue stripe
South
on the door.
Pasadena, possibly?
It could be.
And Dennis,
now
as you assess that situation there of who's actually in that tracking mode, we have an answer finally that we can tell you this is a grand theft auto suspect. What's your take
GTA.
now?
So some construction worker was doing work, and this individual stole the vehicle with all the equipment. That's what we have, a utility vehicle used by a construction person, and obviously trying to flee with the vehicle. So that is what occurred. It's a GTA. Was there an armed takeover? Was the vehicle parked? Were the keys in it? A lot of those questions have to be answered. But now we know this is a stolen vehicle that's obviously stolen from a contractor, a construction worker, with all the tools on that utility vehicle.
And
that's what we're faced with now.
You think of that is somebody's, livelihood right there. That is their career. Those are the tools of the trade, the tools that they need to do their job. And we're seeing now this vehicle getting back onto the freeway yet again after being in the South Pasadena area. So the pursuit now back onto the California freeway.
Now, are we going to go on the 110?
Or off?
And it looks like he's now
back on Surface Street.
Yep, getting
All
off.
right, that was really quick.
Well,
on and off.
It's one of those things, Dennis, as you say, as he is now going to weave his way through, literally threading a needle.
Yeah.
It seems that once he sees congestion,
freeway again,
he decides to get off. And when I say that, now he's getting back on
in a
the
dangerous
freeway.
fashion. Marla, did you see that move there? Cutting some cars off right there. Okay, he was on the southbound 110, then off at Avenue 52, back onto the freeway here. Dennis, a wild pursuit indeed. And as we talked about this being grand theft, I feel for the person who lost their business truck and are probably watching this pursuit, wanting this truck back in one piece.
Now, the question is, how did he get that vehicle? Where did he get the keys? Did he rob the person who owns that truck, get the keys and steal the vehicle? Did he use a weapon? How did he actually get possession of the vehicle? How did he get the key, or did he hotwire? A lot of questions have to be answered how he obtained that particular vehicle. That's all part and parcel. Was it taken in a robbery? Was it just parked with the keys in it? So those questions have to be answered. But nevertheless, we know it's a construction vehicle, utility vehicle, used by a person who uses that for their livelihood. And this individual who's fleeing in that particular vehicle doesn't really have a lot of care or concern for the general public, and just trying to escape, as well as intentioned as that is, trying to escape, but putting everybody's lives in peril as he or she, the suspect, continues to flee the authorities that are obviously pursuing. Whether we're in tracking mode now, we're on the freeway. I don't know if this individual will remain on the freeway. Seems the suspect, as soon as they encounter traffic, they take off back to an area where they don't have a lot of traffic. Because once you get blocked into traffic, there's nowhere to go,
Sure.
and then you have to back up. So now looks like we're off or on the a junction, maybe just an off-ramp.
Right, from the northbound 110 there. And we do understand that LAPD is deciding to back off because of the public safety risk there. So you may be right now that they will just revert to tracking mode as we see plenty of black and whites here lining the street.
Well, this is the time that they may decide to utilize the spike strip. The speeds are too fast. The roads are too narrow for any other procedure. It looks like they're out there. They're stopped while observing as this individual is continuing. It looks like on the wrong side Yeah, the wrong side.
Definitely wrong side. Boy, that's a scary move there. Cars perhaps able to pull over a little bit as they see what's coming in front of them. The streets he's been on, Arroyo Verde, South Pasadena Avenue, now back into traffic. Oh boy, a bicyclist there. You think of the people that are pedestrians and bicyclists at this hour. Luckily, nobody's been hurt. Back now on a more narrow street, and we're on York Boulevard. And now maybe it's hard to keep track of the different streets because you've been moving so quickly and making so many very dangerous turns.
But one thing certain, that this is a residential area.
But what this operator is doing, the suspect, is they're trying to get a street that does not have a lot of traffic and just trying to continue on the move, which wouldn't surprise me if they decide to find an area to bail, leave the vehicle, and take off on foot. That's not uncommon in this type of situation. When you get to a residential area, you have opportunity to do that. So that might be the course of action. But the individual's thinking, how am I going to escape? The police are behind me. I don't know if they know there's a chopper overhead. But the fact is they're going to keep eyes on it, and they'll continue to follow at a safe distance. If the pursuit itself, the red light and siren code 3 pursuit, has now been reduced to tracking, the units are still going to be in that area. And as soon as the air unit reports the vehicle has stopped, the individual is out running, then they will apprehend as soon as possible with the units that converge on that area. So it's not that they've neglected the pursuit. They've just concerned themselves with public safety, the general public. And now we're in a heavily populated residential area. All those streets with vehicles parked, people in their homes at this particular hour of 5:09, people coming home from work, students coming home from school. So it's a very, very populated area, and a lot of homes, a lot of people, a lot of potential victims. This individual may be trying to find a place to bail, which is not uncommon as we see in many pursuits. They leave the vehicle and take off on foot.
Yeah, South Pasadena Avenue 64 was near Arroyo Verde Road. Dennis, you and I covered a pursuit last night where the suspects bailed. There were 3 in one vehicle. They took off running in a residential area where it was dark at night. 2 of them were caught for sure. We saw that when we were still on Fox 11 News. So they didn't really get far. We also had a pursuit yesterday where the person bailed and police were not nearby with their vehicle. So the person tried to, put their backpack on, ditch the car at a gas station, and tried to walk down the street as if they blended in with the public. That person was caught as well. So the thought of them getting away, we see it all too often where they don't get away. But the concern is, might they run to someone's home? Might they try to take another vehicle? We've seen that happen as well. So how this plays out, it varies from pursuit to pursuit. Dennis?
Exactly. And, they take a hostage. They take the hostage in the vehicle. There's all types of possibilities. If they stole a vehicle, that's a felony. If they've committed an armed robbery, if they've injured someone in an armed robbery, if they break into a home, once they get on foot, there's no telling what they'll do. It depends on what they're wanted for, if they've been to state prison, if they don't want to go back. A lot of variables, and they all act different ways. It depends on what they've done in the criminal justice system and how they perform after that. So if it's just a straight GTA, normally they'll surrender, they'll go peacefully, go to court, etc. But if an individual's been to state prison and they don't want to go back, they'll do anything and everything, including taking hostages. So when you've got them fleeing the vehicle, going to a heavily populated area, there's no telling what they'll do. The criminal element that does that, they have really no concern for the general public, women, children, etc. So there have been all kinds of scenarios over the years. But in this particular case, what we know is we have a GTA, a utility vehicle, a livelihood for an individual that lost that vehicle. They reported to the authorities. Authorities somehow saw the vehicle, went into pursuit, and now we're at that stage. So the person could pull over, stop, surrender, get out, run out of gas. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
But this individual just seems to continue to the max, trying to elude, trying to escape, trying to get away. And with that air unit overhead, as we see here on Fox 11, it's a clear sight. And that opportunity for that air unit to apprehend with that activity, observing every incident, every movement, every stop. So, there's really no way that this individual is going to be able to flee. Once they leave the vehicle, then there'll be a foot pursuit. Or the individual will surrender. Either way.
This is the Pasadena area, and it looks like the suspect is getting onto the 134 or the 210 here. Now another freeway pursuit portion of it is underway. He was just on the 134, was just on Colorado Boulevard, Melrose Avenue, in the very heavily populated area of Pasadena. picking up speeds. We've seen him reach speeds of 90 miles per hour, even on surface streets. So here he goes on the freeway, and it looks like he's now veering to the right, sticking with the 134.
And that 134, are we going east or west, do we know?
We will find out for you, but we understand that there is heavy traffic ahead as we look at this freeway pursuit now at 513 here in Los Angeles. I wouldn't want to be on the freeway at 5 o'clock because that's rush hour traffic, and you can imagine going either direction on the 134. You're going to hit some traffic eventually. Our team is telling us that there is indeed heavy traffic ahead. We have seen this driver, though, get off onto the surface streets, be on the freeway for just, okay, 210 West now? Okay, 210 West. Mm-hmm. All right,
we know what the 210 West, when you come to the 605 in that area, nothing but gridlock all the way through the 210 freeway. It's traditional. As you come up on the 210, you will find a lot. There's movement at this particular time, but that 210 really backs up from the 134.
And as we get a closer look of the suspect here, it looks like it is a man there, a male behind the wheel. The window's cracked. It looks like he's got a bald head from this perspective, still blowing through traffic on the westbound 210. This grand theft auto suspect who has been eluding officers for at least 30 minutes so far. This all started in Bell Gardens, now making its way into the Pasadena area on the 134, now westbound 210, and reaching speeds right now of up to 80 miles per hour.
Yeah, he's a suspect. Clearly has a clear path, but it's not going to last that long because, as we know, that freeway jams up real quick. Right now, this individual has a pretty clear sail, but it's not going to remain that way. This is a work day. A lot of folks coming home from work. We know that freeway is going to get congested real quick. So that at that particular time, the suspect will probably exit the freeway. At least that's been the trend.
Yeah.
Exit the freeway, and wouldn't be surprised if we saw the CHP now enter this pursuit.
Well, Dennis,
again,
Dennis, you might be speaking too soon because it looks like he's exiting the freeway yet again. I mean, he really hasn't given CHP time to jump on this pursuit because he hasn't been on the freeway, but for maybe a couple of exits at max. Now he's back onto surface streets yet again.
Yeah, well, I would speculate that we've got traffic ahead, and that's what got him off the freeway. He does not want to get caught up in traffic, trying to avoid that opportunity to get caught up.
Wait. I spoke too soon.
Back on the 210.
Right.
The other direction.
Going the other direction. Okay. From east to west to east. So here we go. It's continuing. Again, this type of driving, there's no way that you can put out a spike strip. They're not going to do a spike strip on a freeway with multiple vehicles. So they will be following air unit overhead, Skyfox overhead, runs out of gas, hopefully, quickly. Bring this to an end to not jeopardize the safety of the general public, which is obviously paramount to us in law enforcement. And just for your fellow citizens, you don't want to see them get involved in a collision with a utility vehicle of this size that could cause some major damage, major injuries. But now it looks like, again, trying to find a freeway that doesn't have a lot of traffic and to accelerate, try to elude. But it doesn't happen because, again, you've got an air unit over you which way you go. Doesn't matter if you're going east, west, north, or south. That air unit's not going to abandon this pursuit. While the tracking mode takes place, that's not happening with the air unit.
Dennis, he was on the eastbound 210. Looks like he's taking Seco Mountain exit yet again, getting off the freeway. We'll try to continue to watch this pursuit as we saw it get increasingly dangerous on surface streets. We want to show you some video from earlier in the pursuit. Okay, we're going to stay with the live at the moment then. The suspect getting off the freeway again, going through that stop sign there, back on surface streets now.
So the bigger picture here, we are showing some previous incidences when this suspect, I was going to say a near miss, but in fact sideswiped one of the vehicles there as he made his way through a jammed intersection there. We've seen plenty of near misses. He barreled through a crossing guard train, nearly hit him at one point. We've seen him blow by pedestrians, unsuspecting pedestrians in crosswalks, and it's been intense and makes you anxious to watch this Grand Theft Auto suspect continuing to get away from authorities. But Dennis, you say it's only a matter of time.
It is. It looks like we got CHP behind him at this time. It looks like there's a CHP unit that is now primary behind the suspect's vehicle, the utility vehicle. Looking at that vehicle, the black and white, it looked like a CHP vehicle.
Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena. We are watching this pursuit again now on surface streets. But Dennis, you say CHP. Would CHP stay on that pursuit, even though it's going on the freeways, off the freeways?
Well, back and forth on the freeway. That gives them the jurisdiction. Again, the California Patrol has jurisdiction statewide. All the cities, all the municipalities, all the counties. CHP has jurisdiction statewide on all the roads. So there's no jurisdictional boundary for CHP. They have it everywhere in the state of California. So they can do it on the surface street, L.A. County, whatever the case may be. In this particular case, the individual, the suspect's going back and forth, freeway, surface street.
Oh, okay. Dennis, we want to interrupt. There's just been an accident involving this vehicle at an intersection. The white truck has stopped in the middle of the intersection. Another vehicle was hit at quite a high rate of speed. Marla?
And we can see the black and whites there in the intersection, so they are there now. And so this is where it gets even more intense, because it comes down to if this suspect will listen to the commands and show his hands and get out of the vehicle. And then it also, is this person armed?
Now the question is, we see the incident of the impact. We see the utility vehicle disabled. Now I see one CHP officer. He needs to get some backup real quick. Apparently at this particular time, this juncture, we've got one CHP officer, and he may be a motor officer.
Dennis,
he's getting out of the vehicle.
Yeah. He is complying with commands to get out of that vehicle. His arms spread open wide there, about to get on the ground. Okay, arms on his head now. He is complying. You have to think of those innocent people who are behind that vehicle as they watch this play out with law enforcement there and their guns trained at this suspect here. The good news is he seems to be listening. He doesn't seem to be agitated. He's not moving around. He has his hands on his head right now. And we will watch as this plays out with the commands by the officer. Marla?
And the CHP officer with his gun drawn, obviously, as he's giving this suspect commands. This is at the intersection, by the way, in Pasadena at Orange Grove and Holly, where this pursuit came to a crashing end. It is good to see that the suspect is complying so far, anyway. Go ahead.
This will remain. The CHP officer needs to get a backup. We need to have additional units to respond to this scene. He's not going to take that suspect into custody by himself. If the suspect decides to flee on foot, now we got a foot pursuit with one officer, and that's not the safest thing. So hopefully there's units responding quickly to this scene to back up this officer. Again, you got people in the other vehicle. We got to get rescue there.
Sure,
because looks like the airbag,
yeah,
right?
It looks like the airbag went off in there, so we need to get emergency vehicles there to render aid.
And that was a broadside incident, so that impact will be on the driver. This individual is complying, but I've got concerns for that officer all by himself.
There we go. There's some backup right now, Dennis, so he has some backup there. There you go. Okay, 3 officers now there, so he has the backup that he needs. A suspect now on his knees, so he is completely complying, now lying there on the ground. There is that concern, as you said, for those vehicles behind the suspect vehicle right there. I'm not sure why the white car stopped there, perhaps to be a witness, but the black car that was hit, that was struck, you see those airbags. I've not seen any movement from that vehicle. Maybe it's somebody just staying there to be safe. Hopefully they're not too badly hurt, but that's going to be something to watch here. All right, suspect now being taken into custody, vehicle being cleared.
So now we've got backup. He'll be taken to custody. Then the next thing, they want to get to that vehicle, that SUV, get that driver MT, medical treatment, to hopefully get that driver out of the vehicle.
We're watching somebody there at the driver's side. It looks to me like an innocent person or somebody who was in perhaps another car or on the street.
Good Samaritan.
Came over to check on that driver. Now you have law enforcement there also looking in the window to see the status of that person or people in that car.
Now they're going to render aid. We'll have a lot of units respond now. There'll be a number of officers. They want to give assistance to that operator. If there's a passenger in that vehicle, they want to get them medical treatment as quickly as possible. It looks like that officer in the tan uniform. That's a CHP motorcycle officer who was operating in a vehicle. But that was the original officer that made the initial stop. And now we've got additional units responding from other agencies. So there'll be assistance. That intersection is going to be locked down for a while. So whatever intersection that is, it's at the on-ramp of the 210. Do we know what location that is?
It's Orange Grove and Holly right above the 210.
So Orange Grove and Holly is going to be locked down for a while. They'll get the witness information. They'll render aid to those that are injured and figure it out from there.
Dennis?
But again, you've got multiple jurisdictions here.
Yeah, and we do have the fire department there on the scene so quickly there. They can render aid, and it's hard to tell because the passenger door is open if there's a passenger who's been injured as well or just the driver.
Or if the driver's side door is disabled,
yeah,
which could be the case. But we certainly hope that whomever
that
is in that vehicle is not injured too badly.
Go ahead, Dennis.
That impact was on the driver's side, and those airbags inflated, so hopefully the driver is going to be okay. But they'll render aid, get that driver to the hospital if necessary, probably so, with that impact on the driver's side. That's a tremendous impact that took place. They're going to use the jaws of life to open that side of the vehicle, but the paramedics are there, the fire department's there, and they'll get that taken care of real quick. I don't see what agency, what department is there with the fire department, but there are definitely fire, paramedics, and now CHP and other law enforcement agencies. So basically, the suspect's in custody. They're going to render aid to those innocent people. And again, we have a situation, a stolen vehicle, an individual trying to flee, and broadsides an innocent person driving down the road, probably coming home from work, and now their car is destroyed, and they've suffered some medical trauma because of this situation.
Well, we can tell you that it is Pasadena Fire Department. They're on scene rendering aid. And Dennis, to your point, this is precisely what we do not want to see. We don't want a pursuit to have to end in this manner. That's great that the suspect is in custody, but to see this and this situation unfold before our eyes, this is not what we want to see.
No, this person has a family that, is going to be worried that they're going to be at the hospital and all the concerns. This is a total innocent individual in a late model vehicle, gets broadsided by an individual, steals a utility truck and broadsides this vehicle, injures this person, destroys the car. I mean, this is a tragedy that occurs when someone's trying to elude the police, and that's exactly what happened in this case. So the individual suspect is taken to custody, doesn't appear to have any injuries. The innocent person in that vehicle is obviously injured, and they're going to render aid because you get broadsided, you're going to suffer some kind of injury. But they're going to use the jaws of life to open up that side of the car. The fire department paramedics are treating that individual at this time. Apparently, hopefully there's only one person in that car. If there's more than one person, they'll render aid. But they're trying to get that side of that car open to extricate that person from the car. This is obviously what the fire department does best. They got the tools, the apparatus to make that happen. The jaws of life will be utilized to open up that driver's side, and that's what you see happening now, along with the paramedics on the inside treating that individual. Again, you're seat belted in the car. You can't really move, and the left side of your body has been crushed by the impact of that utility vehicle into your vehicle. So it's very serious for that innocent person who just at the wrong place at the wrong time that ends up coming up the victim of this situation.
And Dennis, the speeds were about 50 miles per hour when this happened. We have a tighter shot now here of the fire department at work, and such respect for those firefighters, those trained paramedics who come in to render aid. It's heartbreaking to see. It's very sad to see. We can only pray for this person who's in this vehicle, whose day has been altered so drastically by a pursuit.
Yeah, we just saw the impact on the replay. They just showed the impact of that car being broadsided and then coming to rest. So that was a tremendous impact, a high-rate speed impact for the individual who had no idea what was happening. These are one of the situations that I refer to when a suspect's fleeing and there's no lights, siren. That individual driving down the road had no idea this truck was going to barrel through that red light. They had no idea there was a pursuit. They didn't hear a siren. The vehicle was not in activated emergency. That's one of the problems when you go into a tracking mode is you don't warn the public. You're not alerting the public. Hopefully the suspect will slow down. In this particular case, we see this tragic situation. Hopefully this driver will be okay, but I will not be surprised if there's some serious injuries as a result of this collision.
And that is the catch-22 of the tracking mode, simply because they are in that mode to protect the public. But then, as you point out, then the drivers remain unsuspecting and have no forewarning that this is coming their way.
Yeah, they're going through a green light, thinking about what am I going to make for dinner, the family, and all of a sudden this tragedy occurs. This is really heartbreaking to see this happen.
We just had the replay there where you saw how that happened right there at that intersection above the 210 overpass there. An innocent driver struck by this vehicle. As we watch this pursuit, it's surprising to me. Yeah, it's surprising to me that it didn't happen earlier because of the way this guy was driving and making so many erratic turns. The fire department's still there on the scene. Hard to tell if there are more people on board in that vehicle because they're working there in the back seat as well, or if it's just the driver that they're working on.
That would be curious. Again, they do have the jaws of life that opened up the driver's side of the vehicle. They want to get that door open. They want to remove that driver. I don't know why they can't take the driver out the passenger side. I'm not going to second guess, but what they're trying to do is open that vehicle up so they can extricate that driver. And if there's any passengers, there could be passengers in the back seat. Sure, when you get broadsided to that degree, injury to this driver, and we don't know if there's passengers or not in addition to the driver, but they're spending some time there. Again, the jaws of life have worked. They've opened up the vehicle. They're going to hopefully get that driver or any passengers out as quickly as possible. But what happens is when that side caves in, and now you're going to be crushed with the body of the car. And that's what they're using the jaws of life for, to remove that. You're in the seatbelt, and now the car basically crunches you. And so you've got to open this up in order to extricate, to get that person, the driver, out of that vehicle. And that's what they're doing with the jaws of life, trying to open that car up. You got some steel frame beams in the construction of the vehicle, and it's supposed to withstand impact. As we see what happened with this impact, airbags inflate, but you're still stuck there in a seatbelt behind that wheel.
And Dennis, we are hearing that there is just one person in this vehicle, and by all accounts, this person is conscious and breathing, and they're in the process of actually cutting off those vehicle doors now. So that is good news.
Yes, yes. I'm sure there'll be a lot of bruises, but their car's now destroyed. They're injured, and the individual who had the utility vehicle, the owner of that vehicle, is now without a vehicle, and suspect goes to jail.
Well, here comes the stretcher, so that potentially indicates that soon enough they will be able to get this the driver of this vehicle out and to a hospital sooner than later.
Well, Pasadena has some great facilities, medical facilities. Again, fire department personnel, paramedics do a great job, and they were there in just a couple minutes. So commendation to the Pasadena fire folks. They did a great job with this, and hopefully this person will recover, the victim of this incident. Again, totally innocent, driving down the street, going through a green light, broadsided, and now we see the tragedy that takes place.
Dennis, let me ask you this. As a sergeant with the LAPD who spent many years in the department, perhaps covered your fair share of pursuits. You've been an analyst for us for many years as well, and we've done so many of these pursuits together. When you see an ending like this, I wonder if some in the public are thinking, why perhaps didn't they stop the pursuit in some fashion?
Well, what you do is you stop the pursuit, you terminate the pursuit. What about the individual who owns the utility truck? That's his livelihood. That's what he uses to support his wife and children. You just let crime continue to go without the consequences. They want to apprehend the vehicle. How many people has this individual stolen the vehicle from? I mean, obviously, we see a tragic collision that occurs as a result of this. We saw the individual in the truck that went right through the railroad barricade as a train seconds later crossed that particular path. We don't know. We don't know. But the fact is, if you don't pursue people and you just let everyone steal whatever they want or murder whoever they want, you don't have a civilized society. So we've got rules, we got laws, we got possession, we got jobs, we earn income, we support our families. In this particular situation, you've got a suspect that stole the vehicle. We know that was confirmed as a stolen vehicle, and we don't know whatever else or how many times this suspect has been involved in the criminal justice system. And then you got this sweet, innocent person that gets broadsided. I mean, if you stop the pursuit and you say, okay, you can steal anything, commit robbery, rape, murder, burglary, whatever, and there's no consequences. You can't come to a lawless society. So this is one of the tragedies that occurs when you have a pursuit. These tragedies occur. The pursuits we cover here on Fox 11, we cover a lot of them. Seldom does it happen like this where you have an innocent person, but this is the ultimate sad situation that occurs when you have that. And I've investigated before where people have died as a result of the collision. So it goes from one extreme to the other. This individual who stole the vehicle obviously successfully committed the crime, and now will go to jail, suffer the consequences. But the family of this survivor has to now go through the grief of the pain and agony taking care of their loved one who's a victim of this pursuit. So they do back off, they do tracking, they do all types of things, but the bottom line is you got suspects that steal, that loot, that rape, that kill, and you just can't say, well, because of this, we're not going to pursue, otherwise it'll be totally out of control. So it's a sad commentary, but that's why they have the tracking mode. In this particular case, the suspect didn't care who or what he did, and we see the consequences as a result.
So Dennis, prayers for this driver here. As we said earlier, one person, a driver, conscious and breathing. Mm-hmm. The paramedics working so hard there, the fire department working so hard there to be of service to this motorist. So talk about the suspect then. What kind of charges now that we have this accident? Besides all of the charges you think that come with the pursuit, what now is this person who stole that white truck there also facing because of the accident?
Well, there's GTA to begin with, and then there's the pursuit, felony evading. So you've got felonies involved, and then you've got this situation. Depending on the condition of this motorist, this could be a young student, this could be a man, a woman, it could be anyone behind that. We do not know the driver. We don't know what the driver did. Was the driver a member of the clergy? Was the driver married with children? We do not know. But the bottom line is, you got an honest citizen who's in a vehicle who gets injured, and hopefully these are minor injuries, but we see how long it's taken to get this individual out of the vehicle, how they're using the equipment to try and remove the door so they can extricate that particular person, the one driver, unfortunately no other person in the vehicle, the trauma they're going to go through, the hospitalization they're going to go through, if there's any broken bones or anything. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of consequences that play into the charges that are going to be criminally filed against this individual, and I would not be surprised if the suspect that was fleeing in the utility vehicle has been to jail, has been to prison. This doesn't seem to be the first time that they were involved in this type of crime. Normally you get stopped, you surrender, you bail. This individual, the driving pattern was horrendous, and to steal that vehicle was the beginning of a tragic situation that ended up in this particular fashion. So there'll be a lot of charges, a lot of felony charges. This is the kind of situation when you go to state prison, you spend some time in state prison, maybe rehabilitate yourself. But I feel sorry for the victim's family. As far as the suspect, I'm sure that suspect's been through it before, just speculating on the way the driving pattern went and how this whole situation transpired.
Well, they've just made great progress there. The firefighters able to literally take off the whole side panel on the driver's side. So now that's a huge gap, a huge opening to be able to get their patient, this innocent driver here, this motorist, who we do understand to be conscious and breathing. The stretcher's there waiting. It's a precarious situation, of course, because they have to make sure that they stabilize this victim while working their way through the wreckage.
Exactly. And this person's family, is wondering, where's my loved one? Why aren't they here? Why aren't they home? They're supposed to be home at 5 o'clock. What's the delay? Now, the vehicle that's totaled, that vehicle will not be able to be repaired. So that vehicle is totaled. They're probably making payments on it. So a lot of consequences for this innocent individual who gets broadsided by the utility vehicle that was stolen by the individual, the suspect. I mean, this is how you see real tragedy occur to a family that was doing everything right, paid their taxes, paid their bills, does everything right, and as a consequence of an individual that stole the vehicle and plows into this vehicle to a mid-phase red light. These are the real tragedies that the general public doesn't see live as we've seen here on 11. I've lived this for over 50 years in my law enforcement career. It's tragic. It really brings tears to your eyes to see the consequence of this individual is going to have to do when they go to the hospital, the emergency room. The family's going to be alerted by the police, by the hospital personnel. I mean, this is the whole tragedy that's going to take its place now with what they're going to have to go through. As they put them on that backboard and transport them to the local hospital, a whole tragedy is now going to unveil, and the hassle that they're going to have to go through, the issue to go to court, this and that and the other. There's a whole next scenario that's going to take place as we see happening. But this individual's going to be on the backboard, put on the gurney, taken to the hospital. Whatever kind of injuries, you get broadsided, and you're now crushed in that car because of the way that car caved in from that impact. That was a tremendous impact. They're going to sustain some injuries. I would not be surprised if they had some major broken bones.
T-boned at, this is important to recall, at a high rate of speed.
And right into the side of that car. And if this was a sports car, if this was a car that didn't have that body that this vehicle has, more severe injuries. It could be fatal injuries. But in this particular case, fortunately, the person that they're extricating right now will be conscious, go to the hospital, and I would not be surprised again if we've got a victim with broken bones who won't be able to go to work or school or whatever. Yes.
Yeah. We're looking now. The person is out of the vehicle. We're keeping our picture wide at this moment. We don't know if it's a man or a woman. We do know it was one person, conscious and breathing is what we had heard. So firefighters making good work of getting that vehicle basically torn apart with those jaws to try to get to that person and get them into an ambulance. So they're making the move now to get that person over to the ambulance. This location is Orange Grove and Holly, above the 210 overpass there. And it's hard to see the status of this person. We can only hope for the best. Obviously in the good hands there of the fire department, the Pasadena Fire Department, and now going into that ambulance there. And we wish them the very best as they get treatment.
And their consequence for driving, respecting the law, obeying the law, going through a green light, their car is destroyed, they'll be in the hospital, and the consequences they're going to have to encounter because of the individual that stole that vehicle. I mean, you wonder where is justice sometimes. The suspect goes to jail, walks into jail, not injured, and you see this innocent victim being transported to a hospital in Gurnee.
All right, Dennis Zine, police specialist, as always, we thank you so much for your time and for lending your perspective. This latest pursuit here ending at Orange Grove and Holly in Pasadena above the 210. One grand theft auto suspect taken into custody, ending in a T-bone crash at this intersection, and one person now being taken to the hospital.
Got to think that this intersection will be closed for a bit of time as they clean up what they need to clean up and investigate what they need to investigate. Fox 11 News here at 5 p.m. continues. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.